Oh, my love, my vor.
Ajoke's heart fluttered with excitement as she stepped out of the taxi, clutching a bouquet of fresh roses. Dressed in a silky, flare gown that hugged her graceful figure, she imagined the joy on Felix's face when she shared the news. After 2 years of marriage, she was finally pregnant. They would be finally free from their mother's constant nagging about grandchild. The miracle has happened. She had taken the day off to make this Valentine's Day unforgettable for her and her husband, but Felix didn't know. She wanted to take him by surprise. Her husband had always been a loving, devoted man, and today, she would shower him with the love and surprises he deserved. As she unlocked the front door and stepped into their cozy living room, she froze. There, in the dimly lit room, was Felix. But he was not alone. The sight before her was grotesque, unimaginable. What were his 2 goats doing in their sitting room? Her husband was deeply buried in the act that he didn't notice her presence. The bouquet of roses slipped from her fingers. The room spun. Darkness swallowed her whole. Ajoke fainted. The last thing she heard before everything went silent was the soft bleating of the goats and Felix's panicked voice calling her name. Welcome to Ideka channel. This is how the story began.
It is now 2 years Ajoke was living with Felix in the big city. The young couple have dated for many years before settling down for marriage. They were both career individuals. Felix worked as a director in a big firm while Ajoke worked as a banker in one of the renowned commercial banks. After their wedding, the couple secured a self-con apartment in the heart of the city, closer to their workplaces, and moved in. In the backyard of the couple's new apartment is a goat barn, a goat house. Felix has 2 big goats. He reared them even as a bachelor. So, when he got married, he also made provision for the goat house in their new apartment. They live happily and peacefully except for their mothers who frequent their house during weekends to disturb them for a grandchild. It was as if they took turn in coming, because if Felix's mother came this week, they would expect Ajoke's mother the upper week. Ajoke had always known her husband, Felix, to be a man of strange habits. But she loved him anyway. After all, no one is perfect. But if there was one thing she never understood about him, it was his attachment to his 2 goats. Even back when they were dating, she had raised her eyebrows at the way Felix cared for them like they were his children. He called them by names, Chiny and Molo. He would spend hours in their barn, sometimes talking to them like they were humans. When they moved into their apartment after getting married, the goats got a special home in the backyard. Ajoke often joked, "Felix, I married you, not your goats. Maybe you should have exchanged vows with them instead." Felix would just laugh and say, "You don't understand, babe. These goats have been with me longer than you have." 2 years into their marriage, things were mostly peaceful except for the endless nagging from their mothers about having children. Ajoke wanted a baby too, but Felix always said, "Not yet. Let's enjoy ourselves first." But beyond that, something else bothered her. The goats. They behaved strangely. Whenever Felix and Ajoke were laughing together, Chiny and Molo would start bleating loudly like 2 jealous mother-in-laws. It was as if they couldn't stand her happiness. The most bizarre part. The goats never ate food from her. One time, Felix traveled for a few days, leaving her alone with them. She tried feeding them, but they walked away like she had served them poison. When Felix returned, the goats ran to him, bleating excitedly. He didn't even enter the house first, he went straight to their barn, stroking their heads and whispering to them. Ajoke watched from the window, arms crossed. What kind of nonsense is this? Who exactly is his wife in this house? Still, she let it go. A man and his pets, what harm could it be? Ajoke was too busy in her office to start counting sinless sins or dragging love with just an animal, a goat for that matter, that is known for stupidity. But one thing remained a mystery. Each time Felix was in the house with his wife, whether in the daytime or nighttime, the goats would cry and would not let them rest. While lying on the bed with her husband, ready to go to bed.
"These you goats, one day let us sleep. Are they not sleeping? Why are they crying at this time?"
Ajoke would quiz her husband. "Oh, I forgot to feed them this night," Felix would respond, shifting uneasily on the bed. A moment later, Felix would disappear from the bed and there would be quietness from the goat house. One fateful day, there was a power outage and Ajoke needed to tidy up her work in the system before going to work. She walked into the sitting room to call Felix to help put on the generator, but he was not found. She checked the time, it was 2 a.m. Where could he be at this time? Ajoke asked to no one in between, fidgeting. She had noticed when Felix left from the room, but she thought he was going to feed the goat as usual. And there was no noise coming from the goat house. So, at the first thought, she ran to the goat house. Felix was there. Felix was in a deep sleep with his goats. He was lying in between the goats and they were all sleeping peacefully. Ajoke was lost in thought. Why would a full-grown man with his right senses sleep in the goat house with the goats? Angrily, she ran to tap her husband. "Felix! Felix! What is this?" Felix jacked up and ran out of the goat house holding his shirt on his hand and trembling. "Oh, forgive me, darling. I went to give them food and noticed the white goat was having sign of constipation. So, I stayed to help her out, but I slept off," Felix stammered, looking down. "So, why did you remove your shirt and trousers and slept with only your boxers?" Ajoke fired angrily, walking away to the kitchen.
"Oh, no, babe, what do you mean? I said I noticed Shiny Goat was about dying because the poos refused to come out. I don't want my cloth stained with goat's poo. So, I removed them and hung them. I didn't know when I slept off."
Felix followed his wife around the house and kept explaining, his voice shaky. That morning, the couple settled their differences, went into the bathroom and took their bath together. Their two, Felix and Ajoke, cuddled and made love and got ready for work. After that night incident, Ajoke noticed her husband no longer leave the house at night to the goat house. Again, the goats no longer cried the way they used to except during weekends, especially on Sundays. Months later, one particular night, Ajoke was working late when the power went out. She needed Felix to turn on the generator, but when she reached for him in bed, he was gone. She checked the time, 2 a.m., the same time. Her stomach twisted. Where could he be at this hour? She remembered the goat house. She listened, but no single sound was heard from the goat barn, not a single sound. The eerie silence made her shiver. Quietly, she tiptoed outside. She followed her instincts straight to the barn and peeked inside. What she saw made her almost drop dead. Again, her husband was lying on the straw, shirtless, curled up between the goats, sleeping like a baby. Shiny and Molo were nestled beside him, their heads resting on his bare chest. Ajoke gasped, covering her mouth. Her heart pounded in her ears. "Felix," she screamed, shaking him. Felix jolted awake, eyes wide with fear. He jumped up, grabbing his shirt. "Babe. What are you doing here? What am I doing here? What are you doing here? Naked. Sleeping with goats again. Are you mad?"
Felix stammered. "Oh, Shiny was going into labor. I didn't want my clothes to get stained, so I removed them, and I must have dozed off." Ajoke's head spun.
"Shiny? You mean the goat? Why do you sound like a midwife delivering a human baby?" Felix laughed nervously, rubbing the back of his head. It's nothing." Ajoke didn't buy it. But she let it go. For now. Felix stopped sneaking out to the goat house after that night. The goats also became quieter. But something about the whole situation still nagged at Ajoke. One Sunday morning, curiosity got the best of her. Felix had left to run an errand, and she decided to inspect the barn more closely. As she stepped inside, her foot hit something. A tiny, folded piece of paper. She bent down and picked it up. What she read made her skin crawl. "Molo, my love, I miss our nights together. Ever since she came into my life, things have changed. But don't worry, I will always be yours. Forever. Felix." Ajoke almost passed out. Her husband was writing love notes to a goat. She staggered backward, gasping for air. Her mind raced. Was this a joke? Was Felix insane? Was she married to a madman? She confronted Felix that night, throwing the note in his face. Explain this, she screamed. Felix paled, eyes darting around. A joke, listen, it's not what you think. Oh really? So what exactly is it? Oh. Do you need a deliverance session? Are you possessed? Felix finally slumped into a chair, running a hand over his face. I can't hide it anymore. Ajoke's heart thumped. Hide what? Felix took a deep breath. Ajoke. I used to be an animal. She blinked. You what? Before I was born human, I was a goat. A very powerful goat. A native doctor turned me into a man because I fell in love with a human woman. But my first love was Molo. His voice cracked. I still have a connection to her. She was my wife in my past life. Ajoke stared at him, mouth hanging open. Felix, are you on drugs? Felix's eyes filled with tears. No, babe. That's why I didn't want a child. Because if we have one, there's a chance it might be, like me. Ajoke stumbled back, grabbing the wall for support. You mean our child could be a goat? Felix nodded solemnly. Ajoke ran. She ran out of the house, screaming. Neighbors rushed out, trying to understand why a grown woman was running barefoot in broad daylight, screaming, I married a goat. I married a goat. Felix pursued Ajoke, pleading with her to come back, but her screaming has attracted their neighbors. The confused neighbors returned to their houses amidst mixed feelings, some feeling anger while some with smiley faces. It was a prank. That day was April 1st. Felix said he wanted to play the April Fool prank to his wife, but it went out of the hand. He was not a goat. The letter too was also a prank. Ajoke returned from work the following week with a bouquet of flowers. She knelt at the gate and apologized to her husband. She promised to be a good wife afterwards, and Felix accepted her with a hug. She also revealed she has started talking with a relationship therapist who is helping her to adjust. The couple moved on, and Ajoke forgot completely about her husband and goat and focused on building her marriage and career, plus the fact that she was 3 months pregnant. She was waiting for the right and the best time to break the good news to her husband. It was Valentine's Eve, so she kept it on Valentine's Day to make the day memorable. So, she took 1 week leave from her office, which would begin on February 14th. On the Valentine morning, the couple gave themselves a Valentine kiss and left for walks. Ajoke returned on her calculations when that her husband has gone halfway to his workplace. She brought out all the gifts she bought while returning from work the previous day. She was determined to make that very Valentine's Day a memorable one for her husband. She decorated the whole house with roses and sets to cook. Halfway, she heard a car horn on the gate. It was Felix. Home, so early, she thought, winking naughtily. Oh, what a wonderful vow. He came earlier. She thought to herself. She ran into the bedroom and changed into a sexy revealing silky gown and scent of romance spray in the air. 1 hour gone, Felix was not seen in the house. But there is this strange cry coming from the goat house. It was not the usual goat bleat. That kind of cry where 2 goats are making out, like the cry of a he-goat making out with a she-goat. That was the cry. She became interested and tiptoed to the goat house. What she saw made the baby in her stomach to rumble, and she ran back to the house, into the restroom, and threw up. Felix was smacking his goats. The goats were standing and positioned well on a large stool, built to the height of his waist. Felix was reading hard on Molo while he massaged Chiny large breast with his left hand. The goats seemed to be enjoying it, for they were quiet. The strange cry was coming from Felix. He was bleating like a he-goat as he wound his waist in and out of the goat. Ajoke finished throwing up and tiptoed back and saw the worst. He was done with Molo and switched to the second goat, Chiny. Chiny laid face up and Felix was on it, pouncing up and down on the goat, lost completely. What will you do at that moment if you were Ajoke? Anyways, Ajoke eventually filed for divorce, packed her bags, and left. But she learned a few important lessons. Here are a few lessons learned. 1. If your partner spends more time with animals than you, run. 2. If goats don't like you, something is wrong. 3. Not all weird habits are just quirks. Some might be a force or supernatural. Felix, on the other hand, never remarried. He continued his quiet life with Molo and Chiny. And to this day, nobody knows for sure if he was telling the truth, or if he was simply a zoophile, that is, someone who is sexually attracted to an animal. Thanks for watching. Please, subscribe,